Okay, so we're going to move on to based in inquiry. Okay, so first discussion I want you to have. What's your definition of inquiry, and do you see any difference between inquiry and research, or are they the same things? I'll turn my head off, and you can discuss.
The elephant in the room.
うん。
I mean, my definition of inquiry, I guess, based on just not only my teaching career, but also just going back to when I was a student, is what is it that interests you, or what questions do you have that you want to ask and want to find out about? So that's what how I was taught when I was in high school and also university, and then as a teacher. I don't know. That's kind of how I saw it from my mentors, and also I used it sometimes as well with some of my students, especially when I taught grades 5 and 6. Like, what do you know? What do you want to know? So it's almost like using the KWL.
Definitely asking questions, but also maybe like curiosity, curious about having the desire more to play with it. Play with could also be like a trial.
Yes, yes, yes. Trial.
I would say inquiry is what it keeps the students like engaged as well. So it keeps it student centered. That's also the element of inquiry.
Do any of you have any differences about like between inquiry and research?
Research
Right.
varies.
Can I just ask a quick question to the Japanese speakers? What word would they use for inquiry in this sense in Japanese?
探求
And what word do they use for research?
調査
あ、調査。はい。
Okay, but two different words, right?
Yes.
Okay, and do those words match what the IB is trying to talk about when they talk about inquiry? Do you think? Are they a good match?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so too.
Oh, okay.
In the Japanese term, inquiry is more like the kanji is the meaning of like searching and going forward or going further, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And 調査, as in research, is more like how do you say, you look for the information and you examine it, that kind of meaning.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they're quite different, aren't they?
Yeah.
What about the terms investigate, inquiry, and research?
Investigate は
え
明らかにするみたいななんて
そう。
暗い意味
そうね。インベスティゲートになると調べるだけじゃない
ですね。なんか
感じですね。
こう何か特定のものをこう明確にするみたいな、調べて明らかにするみたいな。
いや、
Investigate. How does the internet says about investigate?
What does the internet say?
And
yeah,
how about this 調査 in Google Translate? It says the same as research.
Yes.
But I know that it's a bit different in English.
Yeah, in English, investigate. Well, what would you say is the difference between investigate and inquire? Emily, or sorry, Emily, I keep saying Emily, Melissa. Oh, that got crossed. You're when I did the pictures in Google, I crossed your pictures, and ever since I crossed that, I'm unable to uncross that wire. Sorry, Melissa.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, what do you think the difference between inquiry and investigate in English is?
I feel like inquiry has asking inquisitive, like a question, and then I'm sorry, what was the word explain?
Inquiry versus investigation.
Investigation more like a deep, I feel like more deep research.
It sounds more formal, doesn't it?
And maybe
Yeah. And we in English too, we have two versions of inquiry, right? We have ENIQ, or the rest of it, and IN. And I think, why do we have that? Does anybody know? I might have to look it up.
No idea. No. But can I add though for the investigate part? Because just for investigate, it's like going beyond what your question is and maybe finding like deeper meaning, or also building on what you've learned to try to answer your questions, but also think of new questions. So it kind of leads to new inquiry, and that's how I went to like a workshop years ago, and that's how they presented it to us, like inquiry versus investigation.
Investigation has a final end to it. It's done, finished, right? Yeah. And I just looked up this inquire versus, well, we say it the same way, inquiry, or inquiry. Inquiry means to ask a question in a general way or in a way that doesn't require an in-depth answer. Inquiry asks for information in a more formal way. So that's actually opposite to what you would think. But I think this could be British English versus American English too. I don't think I don't think Americans use, I think you only use the I one, but in Canada we use both, right? So that, but just sorry, but a funny thing with words. Okay, just give you a couple of minutes to talk about this one. Research and inquiry, any differences, and I'll stop. I'll turn my head off.
So I think
It's more factual, but also inquire can lead to research, because if you have a question about something, you can actually research about it and try and maybe do some kind of project or some kind of like paper or something to maybe answer your own question or to build on to what you want to learn. But so they can kind of connect to each other.
That's really true. It's like inquiry is more broad term, and then research could be included. Yeah, that's true.
Because if you think about the Japanese summer projects, I think we talked about this last week, the summer projects that kids do, in not only in elementary, but also junior high school and high school, it's based on what interests them. So it's like so they're researching or investigating something based on maybe something that they want to know, like a question they may have, and then they can do it, unless they're just going to do like, paper mache balls and then, or why does why does aluminum foil burn in the microwave? So, but it's more like most of the time they really learn, like read or talk to people, interview or find information about what they want to present.
And what I also thought right now is like research is you have a content already that what you want to research on. Like even the questions are already there and you search for the information and the evidence for that. But inquiry is more like thinking of the questions that you want to inquire and then research. So it might be like the process is inquiry and then research or that.
Can you have one without the other?
I think they need to be connected somehow. They need to somehow be, hand in hand almost.
Well,
Search
I
without-
recently I closed the hatch of my Volkswagen and it got stuck and I couldn't, right? So although I have absolutely no curiosity into the back door of Volkswagen, right? I needed to become curious. So I needed to do some internet research, right? So I didn't research it because I was interested. It was based on need, right?